Few topics in Canadian agriculture generate as much debate as supply management in the dairy sector. The issue gained renewed attention when U.S. President Donald Trump criticized Canada's protectionist stance during NAFTA renegotiations, underscoring the need to reassess the system's viability. While proponents argue that supply management ensures financial stability for farmers and shields them from global market volatility, critics contend that it inflates consumer prices, limits competition, and stifles innovation. In 2020, academics from two Canadian universities made a compelling case for reform entitled Supply Management 2.0, a Policy Assessment, and a Possible Roadmap for the Canadian Dairy Sector. Canada's supply management system was designed in the 1970s and uses strict production quotas and high import tariffs to regulate production and stabilize prices. However, the system appears increasingly fragile as successive trade agreements erode these protections. Canada's $3 billion compensation package to dairy farmers for hypothetical trade losses clearly shows that the current structure is unsustainable. Supply management has created an industry that increasingly depends on government payouts, not market-driven efficiencies. The number of Canadian dairy farms is on the decline. Consumer sentiment is also shifting. Younger generations question the sustainability and transparency of the dairy industry, particularly in light of scandals such as Buttergate, where palm oil supplements were used in cow feed to alter butter fat content, making butter harder at room temperature. Undisclosed milk dumping of 600 million to 1 billion liters annually has further eroded public trust. Yet the industry is failing to respond. The policy assessment finds Canada's dairy sector is alarmingly overcapitalized. Government compensation payments, coupled with rigid production quotas, have encouraged inefficiency. In Australia and the European Union, dairy deregulation has driven productivity gains, while Canadian dairy farmers remain insulated from competitive pressures that could drive modernization. The assessment also highlights a growing geographic imbalance in dairy production. Over 74% of Canada's dairy farms are concentrated in Quebec and Ontario, despite only 61% of the national population residing in these provinces. This concentration exacerbates supply chain inefficiencies and increases price disparities. Consumers in Atlantic Canada, the North, and Indigenous communities face disproportionately high dairy costs, raising serious food security concerns. New policies must promote regional diversification in dairy production. Production quotas and tariffs must be gradually reformed. The existing quota system restricts farmers' ability to respond dynamically to market signals. While quota allocation is managed provincially, harmonizing the system at the federal level would create a more cohesive market. A flexible quota model with expansion mechanisms based on demand would increase competitiveness and efficiency. While tariffs provide necessary protection for domestic producers, they currently contribute to artificially inflated consumer prices. A phased reduction in tariffs, complemented by direct incentives for farmers investing in productivity-enhancing innovations and sustainability initiatives, could balance food sovereignty and competitiveness. Despite calls for reform, entrenched interests within the sector hinder change. However, resistance is not a viable long-term strategy. Industrial milk prices in Canada are now the highest in the Western world, making the sector increasingly uncompetitive on a global scale. Although supply management also governs poultry and eggs, these industries have adapted more effectively, remaining competitive through efficiency improvements and innovation. In contrast, the dairy sector continues to grapple with structural inefficiencies and a lack of modernization. That said, abolishing supply management outright is neither desirable nor practical. A sudden removal of protections would expose Canadian dairy farmers to aggressive foreign competition, risking rural economic stability and jeopardizing domestic food security. A balanced approach would preserve the core benefits of supply management while integrating market-driven reforms to ensure a competitive, innovative, and sustainable industry. The policy recommendations suggest regional diversification of dairy production, value chain-based pricing models that align production with market demand, and a stronger emphasis on research and development. Performance-based government compensation, rather than blanket payouts that preserve inefficiencies, would also improve long-term sustainability. The question is no longer whether reform is necessary, but whether the dairy industry and policymakers are prepared to embrace it. A smarter, more flexible supply management framework will be crucial in ensuring that Canadian dairy remains resilient, competitive, and sustainable for future generations.